ho, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Cleantech, your favorite 15-minute roundup of the biggest stories in climate and clean energy each week. I missed you last week, but we're back in the saddle on Friday, December 19th, 2025. If you don't know me by now, I'm Factor This Content Director Paul Gerke, joined as always by Cleantech commentator Mike Casey of Tigercomm. We have a special guest in waiting, Dana Clare Redden, our Cleantecher of the Year committee, all around us, Mike. I feel like this is the biggest live audience we've ever had on the show. A lot of pressure on us right now. Folks are actually listening to what we have to say, and we got a special treat for you to wrap things up today. But before we get there, Mike, how are you? How are the holidays treating you?
I'm good, friend. I'm really good. And, just feel grateful and blessed. And part of those blessings are doing a really cool, fun show with you each week with a whole community of Cleantechers, 4 of whom agreed to join us today to talk about the Cleantechers of the Year. So the entire selection committee, headed by Dana Clare Redden, CEO of Solar Stewards. She's got her whole crew on to go through these. So this is going to be really cool and quite fun. And this is our last episode of the year. So happy
kind
holidays,
of a big
people.
deal. I mean, like if you like the show, this is kind of a thing, the culmination, if you will, of all of 2025 and all of we've had to offer you and what you, the listeners, have had in turn to offer us. I know that we've been getting more and more feedback as the years rolled along, and we feel like we're an integral part of this small little community, and it's cool to be seen, and it's cool to see and keep tabs on this industry as it changes. A couple things in the show this week, by the way, Mike, came across my radar, even though I'm not technically working right now on parental leave, and I can't wait to talk about them with you. If you've got something you want to see in 2026 on the show, just email one of us. We have a new email address for this, right, Mike? Do you want to share it with the people?
Do I want to share it with the people? Yes. Paul.Gerke.
Yeah. Just hit that email that's getting the return email on it right now. I think we're setting one up. We're definitely going to do a Cleantecher email in 26 where it's just going to be for the viewers and the listeners to sort of dump what's on their minds to us. It'll be a whole separate inbox, and we'll make sure to get that in the new year. But in 25, we've got 5 more stories to get to. Let's start with the first one. Mike, get us started.
Yeah, and by the way, did you see that sneaky Aaron Nichols? It's okay. Early fame going to his head. He actually wanted a sneak peek at the Cleantechers of the Year. I slapped that down on LinkedIn.
Has it been decided? Don't these things go into the 11th hour? This is probably the committee is right now. Their mics and cameras are off, and they're still mulling over the final decisions. I imagine
Aaron wanted to sneak in at night, steam open the envelopes, look, leak it out, seal them back up. Hope Dana Clare didn't recognize. I'm like, no, dude, we're not playing that way. All right, first story. Former This Week in Cleantech guest Akshat Rathi and Marilyn Martin from Bloomberg. Electricity is now holding back growth across the global economy. Paul Gerke.
Yeah, go figure. Chip equipment maker ASML Holding NV plays a really important role in advanced computing, so much so that its fortunes can shape both the Dutch economy and the global advance of artificial intelligence. That company now wants to build a new campus in the Eindhoven region that will employ up to 20,000 people, but it depends on whether or not they can get an interconnection. It's just one of 12,000 businesses in the Netherlands looking for interconnection. Only 12,000 businesses in that small country, all trying to connect to the grid right now. It sounds an awful lot like what we're dealing with in the United States, Mike. Estimated that congestion issues there are likely to continue for up to a decade. Grid operators investing the equivalent of $9.3 billion every single year. Mike, this is an example of a bigger trend that Bloomberg found, isn't it?
It is. Bloomberg Economics created an index to measure what they call grid stress across the G20. They combined 5 factors: adequacy, demand, cost, grid losses, and climate impacts. Their analysis found that an increasing grid stress leads to a decline in capital outlay, meaning lower government and business spending on long-term assets. It's kind of a downward cycle. So a 1 standard deviation rise in the index could lead to a 1.5% to a 2% decline in spending on long-term investments. So let's take Nigeria. All right, electrification is a big driver of growth. There in Nigeria, where many homes and businesses are switching from diesel electricity, researchers have found that for every 1% increase in clean power, the country sees an increase in 2.74% in its GDP over time. Take that, Chris Wrong. Yeah. Stress grids are dragging investment, but clean power can support growth. The fastest path to more clean power runs through a stronger, more reliable grid. Story number 2, Paul.
Our second story this week is from a former This Week in Cleantech guest, Camilla Dominowski at NPR. Ford pulls the plug on the all-electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck. Mike, this one really slapped me across the jaw when I saw the headline hit my feed. It surprised me, and maybe it shouldn't have, but it really shocked me. I really thought what Ford was doing, I thought they were on the cutting edge. I thought this was the future. I really loved the pilot they were doing in Baltimore. I thought we were going to see so much more of that. I feel like I really, for the first time in this industry, because I'm much newer at this than you are. I don't have the tread on my tires that Mike Casey does. I feel really gobsmacked in a way that, like, rug pulled. Like, I really am surprised that this went the way that it went for Ford.
Yeah. They've halted production on their all-electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck, opting instead to focus on making hybrid vehicles in a future of smaller and cheaper EVs. The company said this decision is following weaker than expected customer demand and that the F-150 Lightning was a money loser. The head of Ford Blue and Ford Model E told reporters that while Americans want the benefits of electrification, like instant torque and mobile power, they also want more affordable options. So they announced the truck at $40K. They ended up selling it for $55K. The company will pivot to a hybrid version of the F-150 with a gas engine and a generator that allows the vehicles to keep driving even when the battery runs out, giving it more than 700 miles of range. Ford is targeting a price point of $30K and expects them to roll out about a year from now. I think the Ford executives need to spend some time in China. That's all I'll say, Paul. Over to you.
Yeah, it seems a little short-sighted, right? Like, and I want to talk real quick before I hit some of the talking points in this article. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to hit just a couple of things that we didn't plan about talking about, because this stuff is super interesting to me, and I just don't understand it. I think this is a real-world application, Mike, of sort of like, well, what could happen if we roll back all of the incentives in the IRA? And Ford famously was building battery plants to support its electric vehicle operations. It sounds like those are going to be used to support grid battery stuff now, which it just shows the sort of state that the grid is in, that Ford knows and recognizes that that's the pivot it needs to make. But the other thing is that this was not like this was a bad idea. Like, it seemed like every customer I spoke to loved this thing. The future applications of bidirectional charging were seemingly limitless. It won the 2023 Truck of the Year in Motor Trend and a bunch of other awards. It was the best-selling EV truck in the U.S. last quarter, but the category is struggling, and thanks in no small part to losing that $7,500 tax credit for EVs. That's in addition to all of the money that Ford put into the grants and the matching funds for its operations and construction to get this off the ground. The tax credit on the consumer, and that's where it really hits them. You're going to say it's a money loser. Well, yeah, that's in part because of why. We'll see what Ford does with the whole balancing the grid with batteries operation. Obviously, the batteries are needed for that too. But I'm just gobsmacked by this, Mike. Really disappointed in the decision, and I feel like inevitably someone else is going to step in that place and do all right.
Third story. Katie Brigham, a This Week in Cleantech veteran. She's from Heatmap News. She wrote, "There's a new color for hydrogen, orange." Poker,
Okay, so
explain this quickly so people don't make assumptions.
So I'm not the guy for this, but we have a little cheat sheet that we've assembled, and I'm going to read it to you. There's different colors here. They're all different things. On this show, we've recapped stories on all sorts of different colors of hydrogen. Green hydrogen, that's water and clean electricity. Gray hydrogen is made from natural gas and some highly polluting other stuff. Blue hydrogen is gray hydrogen with carbon capture. We also had Christian Robles from E&E to talk about gold hydrogen or white hydrogen. That occurs naturally. The Earth makes small amounts of it when water reacts with iron-rich rocks underground, but the process is slow. It usually happens below the surface really deep or in quantities that are way too small for commercial interest. But startup Vima Hydrogen's idea is to speed this process up by pumping water and a catalyst into iron-rich rocks that are closer to the surface surface, which produces larger, commercially viable amounts of what it calls orange hydrogen. The company is announcing a 10-year conditional offtake agreement with off-grid data center power startup Vern to supply over 36,000 metric tons of that orange hydrogen for data centers each year. Hey, why not? Another energy source for data centers. This comes after VEMA's $13 million seed round earlier this year, supporting the company's plans to take those experiments into the field. Mike, your thoughts on the new shade of hydrogen?
VEMA ran 100 experiments per week for a year, but scaling beyond the lab will be the true test of its form of energy and if it works. The company's plan is to begin selling orange hydrogen in 2028. The goal is to produce low-carbon hydrogen at less than $1 per kilogram, making it cost competitive with today's gray hydrogen. Paul Gerke, our fourth story.
Moving along, story 4, Joey Garrison, USA Today. The title, Trump moves to dismantle major U.S. climate research center in Colorado. Another you don't say type of story, Mike. Tell me about it.
Okay, so the administration has said it will dismantle one of the world's leading atmospheric and climate research labs, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, or NCAR. It was established in 1960 for research on atmospheric chemistry and physical meteorology. Administration said it wants to diminish, quote, the green new scam research activities, end quote, but, quote, vital functions, end quote, such as weather modeling and supercomputing will be moved to another entity. The research lab has 830 employees, but it's unclear how many jobs this dismantling would impact. The programs flagged by the administration will include Indigenous Science Center, water-focused art series, and its research on how weather and climate affect shore wind production. Because, Paul, we already know enough about one of the world's greatest crises. We don't need to track it or pay attention to it, because if we don't believe in it, it will go away.
If you don't test for COVID, there are no COVID cases. If you're not watching the video version of this, I'm shaking my head so hard that I feel like my neck is going to snap. If I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have a way more fun thing on the other side of this conversation. Yeah. But if you watched Wednesday's address to the nation, the commander-in-chief said something to the effect of thousands of power-generating stations are set to open immediately after saying something about that green scam. And I turned to my wife and I was like, guess what type of power-generating stations are going to open right now? It's all solar and battery. Like, seriously, it's like 80+%. That's what's been in queue for years. And it's just so funny that in one sentence, one could contradict himself so much and be like, what a scam. By the way, this scam is going great. Anyway, this comes after Trump canceled $109 million in grant money that was going to Colorado to boost EVs, rail improvements, and research into hydrogen and natural gas-powered trains. It's among a list of other cuts. NOAA got hit, eliminated some ocean research, including office and defunding the climate, weather, and ocean labs out there. Mike, enough about this. Let's get to our last story of the show, number 5.
Yeah, well, our last story of the show is going to be this wonderful committee. So we have a listener committee that Dana Clare Redden put together. She's our super listener. And she's CEO of Solar Stewards. And like, this is the second year she has taken all this time to put together a committee and run it with her very light, deft hand to pick our Cleantechers of the year. So first, Dana Clare, thank you. Like, really seriously. And then committee. Aaron, Grist, and Sharon, thank you so much. Like, we have, like, literally, Paul and I have no hand in this. The folks take the list of Cleantechers of the week.
Show up.
That we know. That we know already. And then they just run with it. So first, Dana Clare, big hug, big air hug. Thank you. Do you want to introduce your committee real quickly?
Yes, and thank you for just the privilege of looking at all of this year of leaders. I think, what an interesting year we've had as the proverb goes. And so what a highlight to look at all the folks that are really, shining a bright light and those that have sacrificed for clean and renewable energy. Dana Clare Redden with Solar Stewards, thanks again for another shot at this opportunity. And I want to give a special thanks to my amazing committee who really made it a light lift. We definitely went through all these weeks of amazing leaders and found it to be the best way to honor them is to break it down into certain categories, right? It's just folks really stood out in their own way. So we have several categories. The execution of a Cleantecher, you can have a great idea, but it's the execution that really matters. The bravery, this work takes some guts. And so we chose on that. Impact, of course, how much impact, and then a special category to honor those that really dedicated their lives to this fight. And so I'll let each committee member introduce themselves, but I will go first in talking about our bravery category. This was stood out as one of my faves, and if you know me, I usually talk about being from Appalachia, where the degradation of coal had produces pollution in the rivers, acid mine drainage. And when I saw the degradation that happened in Zambia, that actually polluted one of my favorite rivers, a tributary of the Zambezi River. Love saying that, the Zambezi River. But sadly, quite a global scale degradation of this mine. And this lawyer, Jing Zhang, she actually teaches at the University of Maryland. She's a lecturer, and she's been taking these cases on. Internationally, and she has highlighted this case. And when you think to yourself, somebody do something about it, she is. So she's our Bravery Award winner for 2025, Jing Zhang. And I'll kick it to Sharon for the next category.
Sorry about that. I had muted my phone. I've got a little bit of noise going on behind me, but I am very proud to talk about our execution category. And I guess I should first say I'm honored to be a part of this. So any day I can work with Dana is a good day. So I won't say the same thing about Mike and Paul, but I will say
Boom.
We're inviting people on the show to hit us with zingers now, like we need that.
Right. Just start it off right.
I got rim shot here. All right.
Nice. Anyway, I loved being able to talk about the execution category because just like what Dana said, it's about getting things done. We talk about things all the time, but people are out there doing big, impactful things. And in fact, trying to even narrow that down with everybody on the list was a big task. So anyway, Ramon Mendez Gillane stood out. He has a big focus on renewables-based communities and equitable development, and that is such an important endeavor to take on. And for him to take it on in such a big way, he was the former energy secretary of Uruguay, and he transformed the power sector to 98% renewables. I mean, you need a sound effect for that right there. That's huge. He cut costs, created 50,000 jobs. I mean, it's just everything that he's touching has just done such an amazing job. Achieved nearly 100% household electricity access. I mean, think about that in this type of community. So anyway, kudos to him for doing fantastic things, and we're really, really proud of his execution. So who am I turning it over to, Aaron?
Sharon, we noted that a guy could do for a country of 3.4 million what the clown car running this country can't figure out for a nation of 340 million people. Just saying.
Just saying. So,
all right.
I got nothing on that one. So,
all right, Dana Clare, who's next? You're on mute.
Aaron.
Thank you. And I'm with Sharon. It's just a pleasure to work with Dana Clare once again and this whole group. And I have the honor of providing the impact category winner, and that is Will Heggard, who is a founding director of the Footprint Project. And as Paul was saying at the start of the show, going through some of the stories of the week, the current U.S. administration has gone to great lengths to try to dismantle the science community and the scientific process that goes into studying, understanding, and taking action toward human-caused climate change, which our cleantech industries directly work to mitigate. So that's happening on one side, and I'd say that that's almost like the U.S. nominating itself for a Darwin Award, Best Ensemble Act, to destroy So, but Will and his team at the Footprint Project, on the other hand, the flip side, that's what gives us hope, right? Every day, Will and his team are out on the front lines, not only where climate impacts are hitting the worst, but in communities that are disproportionately impacted by climate change. And the severe weather events that are happening as a result. During the last election, on election day, as I cast my Cleantech vote, I posted a graphic from NOAA, which Paul also mentioned. And that graphic showed the increase of billion-dollar severe weather disasters, wildfires, floods, hurricanes, you name it, this striking uptick of disasters that are happening. Will and his team were recently in Jamaica on the front lines after Hurricane Melissa. His team has worked in Puerto Rico, around the world. And this category is really personal to me because the week that I moved to North Carolina, after 10 years of living in beautiful Southern California, where I loved hiking those mountains and hills every day, Hurricane Helene hit Western North Carolina. Will and his team were out on the front lines helping those communities, and they continue to help those communities after the media cycle looks away, when the government looks away. The Footprint Project is still there. And I'll also note that at the start of this year, as my former community, Altadena, Pasadena, burned and my friends lost their homes, Will and his team were there on the front lines in Altadena, Pasadena, helping these communities rebuild. Through energy resilience, access to electricity saves lives. So it's amazing to see inspiring leaders like Will out on the front lines, and that's what gives us hope. There are solutions to the problems we're facing today. So thank you, Will, for your amazing work.
All right, Dana Clare, who's next?
Last but not least, Dave, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for including me in this project. And although it was an impossible project because all 52 of the candidates they're all a big deal. Every action is huge. But I am going to talk about an honorable mention category. Thank you for squeezing one more category in because there was just too many great choices. But Representative Melissa Hortman and Senator John Hoffman from Minnesota made our honorary mention. Many people probably already know Melissa Hortman's name, sadly, because she lost her life to an assassin's bullet earlier this year. And that is tragic enough for the whole country. But what many people might not know, I did not know until I did a little digging myself, what a climate leader she was. And I am biased towards policy leadership. That's kind of the space that I've focused on mostly in my advocacy. And I'm a firm believer that good policy drives progress. And I think there's no better example, right, than seeing the amazing progress we made while the IRA and the CHIPS Act and the IIJA was in place. Amazing progress over the 3 years, I guess, of the Biden administration, and to see it turned on its head now, and unfortunately the exact opposite happening. The good news is that we still have 50 states that can drive progress at the state level. It is so important. It always has and always will be in conjunction with federal leadership. And Melissa Hortman was a longtime climate leader driving really well-targeted and impactful policy, including 100% clean electricity sector goal for the state of Minnesota by 2045. Those goals are aspirational, but they're so important because they change the conversation, they change the paradigm, and it's really an education process for other legislators to know that these goals are viable. These are absolutely within our capacity to do. She also helped create a green bank for the state of Minnesota. Permitting reform, so important that we're still working on now. And she had a focus on buildings, which is one of the key pillars that we need to focus on to decarbonize our economy. And Senator John Hoffman helped on the Senate side. Melissa Hortman was a state rep. And Senator John Hoffman chaired several key committees. So he really drove through a lot of great progress on the Senate side. And Minnesota is a policy leader. No doubt about it. So, in memoriam to Melissa Hortman and Senator John Hoffman, who unfortunately was attacked by the assassin too, but survived. So, thank goodness there.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank this awesome committee. Thank you, Dana Clare, for being kind for chairing it second year in a row. I'm not going to let anybody know that we're going to lean on you for year 3. I'm not going to tell anybody that. Just saying. But Gerke and I, we got our plan. We're going to rope you in. All right. But listen, folks, unpaid, but with great thanks from us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us, and congrats to all the award winners. And thanks again for highlighting such amazing talent. It's an inspiration. We can take it in next year.
Dana said it better than me. Geez, do you want to thank Brian Mendez, Alex Peterson, Claire Cuerin, everybody else for identifying the stories, not just this week, but all year long? I feel like, Mike, you usually get to say thanks, but it means a lot for me too, so shout out to those folks.
Yeah, and as Paul was saying, we got to thank Claire Cuerin, Alex Peterson, and our wonderful producer, Brian Mendez, for the show. Folks, have a great holiday season. Thank you. We are going to keep on keeping on in this sector, and we just love the community that has surrounded the show because it's an extension of the community that's within this awesome industry. Thank you all. Happy holidays.